In this video, we're going to learn how to create a tabs animation like this one using Veloxi. You might think that this will take a lot of work, but it's just these 3 lines of code in the setup function of the plugin. Okay, so let's delete all of this and learn how to create this from scratch. In this example, I'm going to use React to implement this tabs component. Since Veloxi is framework agnostic, we can use it with any other framework or even with vanilla JavaScript. I don't have much here. All I'm doing here is that I'm creating a tabs element, and inside of it I'm looping through tabs, which is just a list of strings, and I'm displaying a tab div, which is just a div with the class name tab, and I'm displaying the tab title inside of it. What's missing here is the underline element, which is the blue thin line displayed below each tab. So let's create this. So inside the tab element, I'm going to create a new element and give it the name underline. And if I save, you will see nothing here. So let's go to the CSS and add a styling for this one. It's just an element with an absolute position. And we are displaying it in the bottom left of the element. And the width is 100% and the height is 4 pixels. And we are giving it this blue color. Now, since the underline element is a child of the tab element, if we set the position to relative for the tab element, then it will be displayed inside the tab element and it will be positioned at the bottom left corner of that element. Now you can see we are displaying the underline element in all of these 3 tabs, but it should only be displayed for the one that is currently selected. So let's go and implement that. To implement this, I'm going to use React states. So I'm going to say use state, and I'm going to give it an initial value of the first tab. And let's assign this to selected tab and set selected tab. Now I'm going to display the underline element only if it is the selected tab. So let's do this. So if the selected tab is the same as the displayed tab, then only on that condition would we display the underline element. If I save, you can see that the first one is the only selected one. Now when I click on the other tabs, it should also move that selected underline element to the clicked one. So let's do this. If the tab is clicked, so on click, let's say set selected tab to the clicked tab. Let's save and let's try this. So that now works, but without an animation. Now let's install Veloxi to add some animation to this underline element. To install Veloxi, let's say npm install Veloxi. So now we have Veloxi installed in our project. Next, let's create a new Veloxi app. So let's import create app from Veloxi. Let's create a new app, say create app, and let's run it using app.run. Now we are just running Veloxi app but without any plugin installed. So let's create the plugin for the tabs component. Let's add a new file here. Let's call it tabs plugin. First, let's import some TypeScript type for the plugin factory from Veloxi. And let's export the plugin, call it tabs plugin. And let's define the function, and let's give the plugin a name by saying plugin name equals to tabs plugin. Next, let's define the setup hook function, and now let's test that by logging some message. So let's say console.log hello tabs plugin. But before we test this, let's add that plugin to the Veloxi app. So let's say add plugin tabs plugin. Now, if we reload, we will see nothing here, and that's expected. Adding a plugin alone won't do anything. In order for the plugin to run, you have to assign it to some element. And we're going to assign it to the underline element here. So let's do this. Data vel plugin, and the name is tabs plugin. And let's give it a view name. Let's say vel view, let's give it the name underline. Now, if I reload, you can see we are logging the message hello tabs plugin. Okay, so now since we assigned this plugin to this element and we gave it a name of an underline, we should be able to access this view from the plugin. Let's try this. If we go here and we say underline, and let's say context.getView, and the name is underline, and let's log this. Now if we reload, we can see that the underline view is displayed here. Now let's set some animator to the view by saying underline position, because we're going to set an animator for the position, and let's say set animator, and for now let's just set tween animation. Now if we reload and we try to click here, it will not animate, and that's expected. It's expected for two reasons. First, we need to enable the layout transition for this element. Layout transition allows us to animate the position by specifying the target position, which means if I click here, it will calculate the difference between both positions and animate between them. To enable that, we need to say underline layout transition set to true. Now let's try this again. If we click, and again it will not animate, and this is also expected. But before I show you how to fix it, let me explain something. Now if I go here, you can see that the underline element is displayed inside the selected tab. So you can see this is the underline element. If I select the first one, for example, it will be removed from here and displayed here. You can see now the view ID for this view is 4. If I try to move it to somewhere else, like for example the second one, if we see it, we can see that it gets a new view ID and it's now 5. But for the layout transition to work, we have to keep it the same view, which means it should always have the same view ID. And we simply can do this by giving this element a layout ID. When we give it a layout ID, then Veloxi will notice that this element will always remain the same regardless where it moves. So to do this, let's go to the HTML and let's add this new property, data_vel layout ID, and it could be anything you want. So also let's name it underline. Now if we reload and we try to click, you can see now we are running the animation. And if we inspect this here, you can see now it has the ID 1. If I move it here, it will remain 1. Now we are running this animation using tween, but you can change it to anything else. For example, let's set it to spring, and it should work the same. Now if we reload, it should animate with the spring animator. Now before I end this video, I want to mention something quick here. Now the idea of moving an element from one place to another place while keeping the same element ID is called shared layout transition. And actually it's not an original idea. I get that idea from Framer Motion, which is a cool feature that allows us to create many cool animations very easily. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments section. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.